Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from. Actually, we know Casper Lehman. Thank you for joining us. 9 o'clock at night in Norway. That's a pretty good effort, so we appreciate that. Also, of course, this is also available. This is also available as a recording. So those of you that it is late, we understand that you may not want to watch the whole thing. You can always come back and join us. So I've got I've got Swati, the weather girl, with me today. She's one of the PMs on the team who owns these features. The reason I call her the weather girl is because the last time we tried to do this, it just bucketed down snow the day of, and a tree fell on. Was it your neighbor's house, Swati?
I was crazy. Yes. It
You
blocked my driveway. I couldn't get out. I couldn't Uber it in. It was
she was
unbelievable.
she was mortified that she couldn't do this video, and she had a tree across her neighbor's house. So clearly her priorities are intact. They're spot on. She was sitting in a dark house with her child and a tree across her driveway, and she's worried about this video. So we rescheduled today, post New Zealand, and the night before it starts dumping down snow again. So I'm actually doing this from home. Swati did make it in. So Swati, what are we gonna learn today?
Thank you, Chuck. Yes. Thank you for summarizing that. It was deja vu today too with the snow in, but I had to make it in. Good afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for taking the time to come chat with me and chat about the Power BI Premium Capacity Metrics app. My name is Swati Gupta. I'm a PM for the Power BI team, and we are going to be focusing on the app today. So basically, I take it that you all are here because you either are planning to get a premium capacity, probably have one, running into issues, are aware of the app, maybe not, have tried the app, seen the spikes, trying to connect the dots, or you're here to meet Chuck. But whatever be the reason, welcome. And I am going to jump right in to the webinar. So my goal is that at the end of this webinar, you should be better able to first discover and install the app, because that's the first step. Once you have the app installed, we should be able to use the app to monitor your health capacity, investigate issues, and finally, last but not the least, decide when you need more capacity. And what I have in mind are the following agendas, is basically talking about why you need to know about the app, who can install the app, and I will be probably, kind of spending about like maybe 10, 15 minutes of this hour on the first two topics, but the prime time would be talking about how to use the app. We'll be spending a good chunk of our time inside the app, and then kind of end it by talking about the common scenarios that get escalated. So you've probably seen this site before. This is the same site that we've been sharing with our sales team, where we are talking about our premium offerings. So we've got the Pro license, as you know, where we pay per user, but we manage your capacity, and we've got the throttles and limitations that go with the Pro experience. But when we talk about the premium offering, this is what we offer is you get the flexibility to license by capacity, the greater scale and performance, and extending the on-premise capabilities. But what does that mean? It essentially means that there is the no noisy neighbor. You get exclusivity with your dedicated capacity. You've got this huge data set storage. I think it's about 100 terabyte. You've got the no user quota. You've got the incremental refresh ability. You've got the higher refresh limits, so you're not stuck with the 8, but it's up to like 48. And you get all this goodness, but there is one key line that's missing from this side, and that is which you can manage. So on that note, I want to kind of take you back in time, because I truly believe that sometimes you have to look back to actually see move forward and to understand where we're headed. So when we released Premium back in July 2017, this is what we gave you. And I bet this is bringing in a lot of smiles on your faces, good memories. This is before my time, but I've heard a lot of stories behind this.
The three balls. I love it.
Do you remember that time, Chuck?
I do.
Uh,
Yes.
but it was simple, right? Like we were just, it was simple. We would buy more when it's red, right? But not true. This was a
No, no,
lot
no.
of
I was gonna say that red didn't mean it needed to do that. It just was like, oh, it's red.
it's
Okay.
right. So You remember all the CSS calls?
Yes.
They're
Oh my
coming
god,
in.
my stuff's red. It's like red's good. No,
Yes.
red's bad. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're telling us it's red, but our users are not seeing any problems. So what does that mean? Are we missing something? Do we buy more capacity? What's going on? But that was just purely Power BI at work, making the best use of your purchase and giving you world-class user experience. So we learned from that and we made that experience a little bit better. We removed the color. There's definitely a step in the right direction. And we added in memory usage. And we also added in this beautiful chart that summarizes the 7 days of usage with the ability to export the data. But the question is this memory usage good, bad? You know, the answer, it really depends. So it felt like we were in the right direction. What was missing is, a mechanism for drilling down to investigate, to, um, you know, combine forces to explain what's going on in the capacity better, to establish a baseline of usage, to answer questions like what's actually eating up all the memory and CPU, what's slowing down the capacity, why are the reports running slow, and I wish there was just one way to express that, but it's not. It's a collection of data points. It's a trend that you need to look in. And this is why we came up with the app to answer that, to help with that. And this was Josh, his blog post announcing releasing the app, that there is something that they're out there to help. And this was back in August 2018. And since then, we have been making iterations based on your feedback, our conversations on live site issues that we've been seeing. We've been iterating and making improvements and releasing new versions of the app. The last being a couple of weeks ago, and that was 1.10.1.2, where we released the system metrics by workload and the total active memory. And we'll look into all that when I drill down and go into the demo. So I wanted to kind of start off with who gets, so we kind of covered like the why we need the app. And I'm sure we all, kind of felt the need and the pain, and we have this justified need of why we need it. But who can install the app? And the app is there for admins to help them make data-driven decisions as to optimize or tune an already deployed solution to restore like the acceptable response times, or even justify if they need to scale up and have data-driven decisions to when that needs to be done. So this is for the admins. And now kind of moving into the how. So this is just a trailer of what I will be demoing, but just to kind of give you an idea that they are two ways of actually getting the app. One is, clicking on the link in the admin portal. Um, that would take you to App Source, or you could directly just go into App Source, type in Power BI Premium Capacity Metrics, and click on the Get It Now app. The Get It Now button would then take, and this is like any other service app out there, would then bring the app into your app workspace. So once you have installed the app, and when you click on the app, it then takes you to this content list, which is the dashboard, the report, and the data set. And we'll drill down on, and just to kind of give you a snapshot on what that means. This, I am going to apologize in advance of what I'm about to do. This is a perfect example, Chuck, of a PowerPoint kill in action. And it's just 3 slides, but I've been going crazy on, I didn't know how to showcase all the hard work that was being done. So this is just a capture of like all the data points that we capture in the metrics app today. So you've got the version and the number of capacity, the number of workspaces, and I'm not going to like go over each of them, but just kind of giving you an idea of what the data points, what the metrics, the KPIs that we surface in the app today. And there's Doug Rosen, the lead engineer, and his ninjas have been working really hard to get all these metrics up and meaningful and available for admins to be able to ease their pain and help them manage premium. And we'll go over all of this in the demo, but just wanted to kind of give you a feel what we'll be looking at. So this is the dashboard, and when you click on the dashboard, we've got the report that has this look and feel, which we will look into the demo as well. And now is probably a good time to kind of get your cameras ready. Take a picture. If you don't get a word of what I've said, you missed everything. There was something you couldn't make it to the webinar. This is it. This is all that we're talking about is all captured in these two docs. So we've got the blog post. That's the first link, and then we also released a white paper that captures how the Power BI Premium actually works, the service, all the components, and drill down. We've kind of done our best work in trying to capture all the scenarios. Anything and everything that Chuck and I are talking about today is definitely mentioned in this doc.
And I went ahead and put that in the chat window as well, so everybody should be able to look at that in real time.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. So I would like to kind of jump into the demo now. But Chuck, before I do that, is any questions that I can answer?
There's been a couple questions, yeah. So one of the questions is James would like to know, when are they going to get, he'd like to be notified when he's getting close to that danger edge. So the red ball was a danger edge, but he would like to know what it was. And when I asked him how he'd like to be notified, because we know about the alerts and whatnot, he said that where the red ball was, it would actually be nice to see a notification there. So ideas.powerbi.com for the red ball placement, but hopefully you can cover that. And then Chris W. from Portland, Columbia, he goes to the user group down there, was asking, is there any way to actually add his own measures into the model that you guys are using for the report? So maybe you can cover that in situ when you're going through the demos.
Okay, I've made a note of both of that, and I will try to touch on that as well. So just making down a quick note so that I don't forget. So switching gears and moving to demo mode, I will be getting. So you'd seen the previous slides. I kind of touched on it, but this is now me, kind of walking you through that experience. So today there is the admin portal, and there is a banner that we have. So clicking on this takes you directly to the app, to be installed. So this is where you would get it now. Click on the get it now. You see the version out there and when it was released. And the other way is, probably just going directly to App Source and typing in Power BI Premium. That's the other way. And clicking on Get It Now, just confirming, yes, it is the latest version. Get It Now would then bring it to the app. So I'm going to do that right now. And while that's loading up, I do have a previous installed version.
Actually,
Yes.
so this is actually in perfect timing. Chris has asked another question. With normal apps, if he wanted his entire organization to all get fed that, they would go to Access, and there's actually another checkbox where you can say force it to actually download into their app space. How can he make sure that all of his organization is actually looking at this app? Is there a way? And I don't know.
Not today. So this is where there is no way to share this, but this is definitely some feedback that we've taken. We're considering on how to share this out to a different audience. But today, this is there is no way to share this. But feedback taken. This is definitely something that we want to look into, and it's on the roadmap. So are we good, Chuck? Should I proceed?
Yeah, actually, if we do this as a template app, that would solve the problem too. So if you haven't looked at template apps, do that. We'll have to do another webinar on it. Yeah, okay. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Swati.
So I kind of wanted to identify this is so today you would to get the new version, you would have to go and install the app. So this is I kind of left this in there because this is I had a previous version, and as you can see, I have this as 1.10.1.1, which kind of tells me that it's an older version out there. Um, and this is the latest version. So the guideline check that we've been sharing with everybody is, to delete the older version. And this is another experience I wanted to kind of show is when you install the app, it takes some time to actually refresh the app. So the guideline here is when you do install the app, to kind of wait maybe a couple minutes for it to get set. And how you would know is if you go to the refresh schedule and look at um, the history, you would know that the app is still in progress. There was this indicator that we missed when we were trying to install the app because I kind of went back and forth through an old, so we kind of missed that setup. But if you did miss that, just like what I did, the best way is to wait till this refresh is completed to take advantage of the app. So moving back, we will jump into it. So like I mentioned, once you have installed the app, you've got the dashboard, the report, and the data set that's packaged into the app. The dashboard is loaded, and it's to present the numerous tiles expressing the aggregated view of all the capacities that you're an admin of. So the dashboard layout contains 5 sections. So you've got the overview. On top, you've got the system summary, which is the memory and CPU metrics. And then you've got the data set summary. You've got the data flow summary. And then you've got the paginated report summary. And this is to the other advantage, of what you could do in the dashboard is something that I wanted to kind of walk over is set alerts. So we'll see why, but a good alert to set is on query average wait times. So you would right click and click on manage alerts. And this is a mechanism for you to, for admins to monitor if this goes beyond the acceptable threshold and get alerted when it does. So I'm going to just say cancel. Don't save for now, but
Actually, this screen is actually addressing who was it was asking this question? James. So right there, James, is actually how you would get notified of it hitting some tolerance that it was unacceptable or acceptable. Anyways, is that the way you would suggest, Swati? Because that certainly addresses as one way of doing it.
that is correct.
Yeah.
That is the purpose. But yeah, that would be the guidance that I would give. So I'm kind of coming back to see if the app that I'd installed has worked. So it is still in progress, and of course the demo gods are not going to be in my favor.
So let's go on to take another question. So David Sedlin was asking, are there going to be any QPU metrics? Do you know what QPU is? I think it's query per unit, but I don't know that. Do you know what that is?
So it is the query processing unit. So it
Uh-huh.
is, we are moving away from QPUs, and we are kind of leaning towards CPU measurements.
Perfect.
And there is a little bit of maths that translates from QPU to CPU, but now we're trying to keep it consistent. So all the measurements that we have in the admin portal, everything in the app, they're all going to be CPU.
Okay. And then he goes on to ask, is it okay if we keep asking
Yes,
questions?
please. Yes.
Okay.
Go.
So David goes on to ask, is there any way to push these alerts that you just looked at into the error log? And so an error log is actually specific to a machine.
Mm-hmm.
What I would recommend, and Swati may actually have a different approach, is go ahead and use Microsoft Flow and actually run a flow that would then send it to a mail group or distribution list based on the severity of the alert. And then also and I don't think we actually have a action for this, but using application insights, you would actually send it to your application insight logs. So instead of one machine's log, which doesn't make a lot of sense, you'd actually send it to your data cluster, your data center, wherever your data is. You'd actually send it to those logs, and you'd aggregate it with wherever your SQL or Oracle or whatever data source is. You'd actually see all those logs in one place. So flow to email and error logs using application insights would be what I'd recommend. Swati, did you have other recommendations on how to get it into an error log?
I could not have answered it better. It was right on. But no, I have no other recommendation than what you had suggested.
Christopher Sharkey is asking, is this app available for capacity admins or just Power BI admins? And I
And
don't know
a
that.
great question, Christopher. It is for both. It is for capacity admins as well as Power BI admins. And you only would see the capacities that you're an admin of.
Oh, Tian is actually asking for a great recommendation is, hey, can you actually make this data set available as an entity in your data flows? So you could actually go out and start pushing through that application insights plus all of this data. So I think the answer is not yet, but it's actually a great thing for Swati owns these features. Maybe we could add it to ideas.powerbi.com for her.
Yep, that is a great idea, and I've made a note of it. And just like Chuck mentioned, we definitely listen into the user voice actively. It feeds into our planning, our prioritization. So keep that feedback going. This is been a good feedback channel, and I've made a note, and I'll definitely look into it.
And the category you'd want to use would be premium. That's where Swati usually spends her time.
That's correct. So we're gonna take this last peek to see if it was done.
It's got to be done.
Yay, it completed. So obviously it took 6 minutes. It's usually done a little faster, but it's the demo gods. You cannot fight them. So going back to the app, we look at the dashboard, and then clicking on any of these tiles would take us to the underlying report, and that's the report that from which the dashboard tiles were pinned. So those can be accessed by clicking on the dashboard tile. And this report is where it provides more detailed perspective of each of the dashboard sections that we went over with support of interactive filtering. So what that means is what we saw on the dashboard was a summary of the 7 days of data. But what we're looking at here is a breakdown with filters. So you can see we've got the ability to, and this is just my demo account. I'm just an admin of one capacity here. So I'm just going to select that. I have the option to drill down on a certain date. And then I'm going to be sticking around like the refreshes for now. So, but basically what is you have the report that consists of these 5 pages. You've got the data set, which displays the detailed metrics on the data set health and on different perspectives. So we're going to it breaks down to refreshes, queries, and data sets, and we're going to be spending time on each one of them to kind of get a feel of what we're doing here. And then just to call out, we also have a tab dedicated to pattern report, which focuses on the pattern report workload health, one for data flows, and then we've got the system, the resource consumption which displays the overall capacity metrics, and it also breaks down the memory and CPU utilization by workload. And last but not least is the IDs info, and this is what I'm going to click on next to kind of give you some context on what my demo account, the capacity looks like. So I do have a P1, and it's and I do have like the data set pattern report and the data flows enabled in this capacity for us to drill down on. So switching back to data sets. I wasn't sure what that draggy thing was, but
While we're waiting for that refresh, we're going to have a second.
yes.
Alexander Ower asks, since the dashboard shows the aggregate across all the capacities, can you set an alert to just one? So back into the report before you pin it to the dashboard, can we actually go out and specify, like you got selected capacity, can we make one of those tiles just for that one capacity?
So what we are doing today, Chuck, is the summary. So the straight answer is not today. Um, but this is something that I'll definitely take back to the team and consider to address what we have today. And I just wanted to kind of bring that up since that was a question and we are waiting on the dataset tab to load. Is we do have the ability to put an alert on if you do have multiple capacities. There is this option to put an alert on this tile that would then surface the one capacity that you have that is having issues. So there is a partial yes to that question, Chuck. Is you could set as an option here. So this is where if there was a capacity that did hit CPU high utilization, so that what that means is it did cross the 80% threshold a number of times. This is where it would get alerted, and then we have a similar one for max memory utilization as well. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then, of course, I could actually have an if statement in my flow that goes out and wakes up the right team based on that. Yeah,
That's
that makes perfect sense.
Yep. So now that the data sets loaded, I wanted to kind of spend some time to see what are the questions that we can answer and what we have here in the app. So like I mentioned, we have the ability to set filters on a particular capacity and the dates for us to be able to drill down. Looking at refreshes, the refreshes of data set is background activity. What we're doing is basically looking at the overall 7-day summary, but broken down by data set and role aggregated up to the workspace. So what this table is telling me is that they were over 2,400 refreshes that were done in this capacity, and then it's kind of broken it down by data set and workspace. So for instance, this one, I'm just picking on one, but I should pick on this. So there's this events workspace that has these data sets that were refreshed these many times and aggregated to a total of 2,300 refreshes. The next column is the reliability. It's kind of telling us how reliable has the refreshes been. So it's been pretty good on a majority of the workspaces. And this is discounting all the user errors. This is pretty much just the system errors. And right now we're showing an average of the 99% on this capacity. The next columns are accounting for like the wait time and average time. So essentially what wait time is the lag between when the refresh was actually scheduled to when it actually finished. So this is actually a good measure for us to say if they were if we see reports being stale, you would see the wait time have some value here. And this is how we can actually drill down and try to figure out what the impact was and how long those reports were stale and take actions on them. So we showcase the average and the max wait time. And then moving on to average duration. So this is telling us how long did it take for the refresh to complete from start to end, and it's accounting for like the average and max duration. So this is where if there is and this is kind of a perfect segue to it would take me to the top 5 data sets, that the right two charts that we have up here, which is highlighting the top 5 data sets by average duration and average wait time. And what this essentially means is if I'm looking at the top data set right here, and I could select, this is the power of cross filtering, which helps me narrow down to a specific time period, workspace, capacity, and in this case, it's the data set. So I'm interested in why this data set is, it's not that bad in this case, but if we're, it's saying it's 9 minutes. But why is it taking that long? And is it just a one-time thing? But it's an average. So what is the max? So it seems like it is kind of averaging out, and we could see when that refresh happened, what was going on at that given time. So as of now, it just seems like if that this um, refresh is something that we could fine tune. We could look at the measures. If it were taking a long time, the next steps here would be um, to contact the dataset owner. So if we had to contact the dataset owner, what I do see is this dataset, it belongs to this workspace. And I could go back to my admin portal, click on capacity settings. Sorry about the pause. It's, click on the capacity. And of course, it's the demo gods are not with me. It's taking longer, but
How about if we ask another question? So
yes,
Krishna
sure.
Malpudi, and I apologize what I just did your last name, says, what would you do if you actually got a refresh failure error from the application? I know I've seen one, and I know what I would recommend, but I want to hear from you since you own the features and see if we have the same suggestion.
So Chris, so Jack, the question that Krishna asked, is it the the data set in the capacity? Can you what refresh
He doesn't
failure are we talking
specify.
about?
He says, "What about a refresh failure error message?" He actually asked some other questions, and I thought he was playing word association with me earlier. So these are fairly terse questions he's asking.
Okay. So I will take both. So one is if they were a refresh error in this app, you would get an email, or the other way would be to look at the refresh schedule, the same place that I was looking at when I was trying to figure out if the refresh had completed. So that covers if the refresh of this app was failing. But if you're looking at the refresh errors in the this in the app in a capacity in a data set, uh, the closest, like, I mean, what we would do here, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit later too, is looking at the reliability, and then we also have a breakdown in the below chart as to how many times it failed. But today we did not surface the refresh errors in the app. This is something that we're looking at. It's in the roadmap, and we are looking to expose that in the future.
Okay. And another thing too, I saw it's not quite a refresh error, but if you're actually seeing strange errors, it may be that if you've loaded a new version like Swati did initially, and you don't do a full browser refresh, because it's actually got the JavaScript from the old one. So if you install a new version, you're seeing strange errors, make sure and just either close down or do a Control F5 and get a new fresh browser instance.
Yep, that's the perfect way. Is definitely, it definitely needs a reboot, or just kind of wait it out for, like, I had to wait for about 6 minutes. I've heard cases where they had to, under circumstance, depends on the load, is they had to wait up to like 10 minutes. But definitely wait it out a bit before and let the refresh complete. But that that I hope that answers this question.
Does. And
Okay.
Chris has got another question
Yeah.
from down in Portland. I think I know this one, but I'm positively going to ask you. Is I understand that Power BI embedded capacities, i.e., ASQs from Azure,
Mhm.
show up in the app if the permissions are okay. Is this correct?
That is absolutely correct, Chris. We do support embedded capacities in this app, but there is the permission, and we've talked a little bit about that in the docs and the blogs, and we try to cover that. We are looking to smoothen that experience in the near future, but as of now, it should work once the permissions have been granted.
Chris was also saying that he actually got some refresh issues in the app, and it was because he didn't have the correct permissions in the Azure embedded instance. So exactly what you said in the docs might also cause refresh issues. So there you go. So Chris has actually got an answer as well.
Okay, perfect. So good questions there, guys. So kind of drilling down on this table here is where we see. Just want to close on what I'm seeing in this table here. Is there is a 29-minute max wait time seen on this capacity with a 4-minute average wait time. So this is a good way of figuring out what was being maxed. So if you want to do, we could do just sort that by max, and there you go. You could go down to see what took 29 minutes. And if it was an anomaly, so this is where the app gets very powerful, is where you can actually kind of figure out a baseline, or was it an anomaly, something that actually caused it to happen, or is it actually a data set issue? And um, and then you have the duration, similar to the wait time. I could do a sort on max duration and figure out what the average and max is, if and cross out if they were anomalies. But if the average is high, then this is definitely a good point to reach out to the dataset owners and have them, look at the way they've, the measures that they've added. And there are some guidelines on how to speed up the refreshes, but that would be the guideline, is to reach out to the dataset owner and to fix the measures so that the durations are under like the thresholds. And moving on, so I had touched on these, top 5 data sets. I'm going to emphasize now on like the bottom 2 charts. So this is essentially what we talked about, but a breakdown by hourly bucket. So this is kind of giving me a good layup on what the trend is. And as you can see, my demo capacity has been behaving pretty well. It's been successfully running all the refreshes. And we overlaid this with the memory consumption just to kind of get an idea, so we can look at the correlate the spike with the activity. And as looking at this data, I'm not seeing any strong correlation. I do see some failures, but I can definitely drill down and see. But I wouldn't be too concerned about them, because they right now they don't look that bad, and as per the counts. And then the dotted red line is showing me the dataset memory limit. So since I have a P1, I have about 25 gigs, and I can see that I'm way under my dataset limit. So there is a little bit of spike here that I'm really interested in seeing what could have caused it. So let's keep our eyes up. Let's wear our Sherlock Holmes hats and the fancy pipe, and keep our eyes and see if we can answer what that little spike was up there. The bottom chart is interesting because this tells us the average wait time. So this is kind of giving me an idea that the average wait time that is around like 2 minutes, about 4 minutes. Um, I see some spikes, but I would be concerned if I see a pattern here, if I see high number, of spikes and wait time, which is essentially telling me that, those refreshes have not been started and they are actually being queued up, which is by design, where if they were, so just want to like iterate, like if they are long refresh wait times, they are primarily indicative of the fact that there is insufficient memory, or we are hitting parallel refresh limits. And in our case, it seems that we're good. We haven't, really touched on both yet, but this is where you would see the obvious correlation if that happened. Um,
So actually, Krishna
yeah.
has a question about that exact same thing. He's wondering, will this show me if I've hit a refresh limit? So the limit's 48 times. If he's actually at 47, does it go red, or would he need to actually go out and troll through the auto log? Because I know that information is also in the auto log.
It is in the audit log. We are looking at ways to surface this up in the app, Krishna, like we are in the future. But today, we don't make that. We haven't really called that out, but nonetheless, we are able to answer that question. Not directly, but I think what I was trying to get at is what what the Power BI service does is when it does. Hit the threshold when there are concurrent parallel requests coming in. Power BI service does the job of spreading out the load. So what it does is it queues up those requests and takes it on as soon as resources are available. So those lags are then highlighted in wait time. So you would get to know if refreshes are running out of schedule. You would see high wait times. But if this is just Power BI at work, trying to help out with the spreading up the load. But if there are users complaining and it is time sensitive, and so there are ways there are guidelines to probably move them to a capacity that has less load, so that it could keep up to the schedule. But if the schedule is not a problem, then Power BI would make sure that it is completed. I would also, this is probably a good time to also emphasize that when you run an interactive refresh, when you run an on-demand refresh, that is considered interactive. It is given priority over all the scheduled refreshes. Once a job is scheduled, Power BI takes it on itself to make sure that it completes when the resources are available. So I hope that answers your question. So I would want to move on to query durations check. Is this a good time for me to take on the next perspective here?
Yeah,
Okay.
Krishna was asking
Yes.
about not being a member of a workspace and you can't see the refresh history, but I don't know that there's really a question there. So, but yeah, go ahead.
So if the workspace is in the capacity and it has been running refreshes, then you would see that pop up in this list. But if it's just sitting, there are no activity on that workspace, there is no refreshes or queries, or you would probably see it not appear. So probably that's where the gap. That's what Krishna was pointing at. But he can clarify. Um, so moving on to query durations. Um, so queries is the interactive experience. Queries is basically when you open a report and you're moving sliders or you're interacting with the report. That's considered a query. And we, to deliver a responsive experience to report users, to enable a higher query throughput, to kind of give the best world-class, experience to report users, we prioritize queries, the interactive experience, over refreshes. And you'd probably see that in our reporting as well. So even in the units, we kind of go with milliseconds because we expect the reports to run fast, the queries to run fast, and it's acceptable if the refreshes, kind of run in minutes. So I just wanted to kind of call out why that from the design aspect of the way the app needs to be understood and the way the Power BI service works. So looking at query duration, that answers. And sorry, that spike there, Chuck, was bothering me. I wasn't even sure what that was, but now I see it right here. So can I say this Scarlett, was with the candlestick in the dining room?
Let me guess.
I
It's
guess.
Gilbert. It's Formu. No, it's Formu, isn't it? If
Um,
you go back and look at it, it's one of his data flows. I'll
okay,
bet you
wait.
money.
Let's see.
Who is it?
It's the Matlin marketing demo.
Okay, no. So Gilbert was actually the Definity one. Oh, actually, Definity Power
Okay.
Platform. That's me. That's my
Oh,
demo.
see.
Okay. So Gilbert is not the Miss Scarlet in the parlor with the candlestick. It's
It's like,
actually
oh,
Matlin.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, but you can see the power of the app here, guys. Like, you can, you know, b- by us like correlate like the by us correlating like the memory usage, and drilling down to the there are some answers that you could definitely get from here. um, so the query duration is um, similar to what we've seen in refreshes. It's aggregated at the workspace level by the data sets, and we see the total count, the average duration, and the max duration. So this is essentially all the interactions that were done on this report. What was the max duration of each of those queries, each of those interactions, and the max duration? And this is where that there was definitely a lot of activity in that demo, Chuck. Yeah, it's interesting. um, so coming back to the query duration, we do have a distribution here that kind of gives us a picture of what the experience was at the capacity level. So if you look at the data, it's telling us that about 72% of the queries ran under 30 milliseconds. And then you have a breakdown of how many took between 30 to 100 milliseconds. I would be kind of worried about the ones that are taking over 30 seconds. This is a way for us to kind of drill down. Again, that demo, the Matlin marketing demo, is definitely standing out. There was definitely a lot of activity that happened on March 5th on this report. And there's definitely going to be some ask for them to, fix their queries, because you can see the average time that each of those interactions was taking was about 10 seconds, and the max being 89, which is totally unacceptable. So this is definitely a good call out for the data set. The DAX query to be revisited, because this impacts the other, it takes up resources and going to impact the other, the content that is also asking for resources. And what I also wanted to emphasize is, and sorry, going back to that, especially because the other reports in that hour were not taking that much, it kind of does stand out that there was something going on in that one report. Um, and this is the hourly breakdown. So what we can see is by the hour, what queries were taking how long. So you can actually correlate this with the user experience as well. And this is where you could see that they were about 446 out of the total, which is almost like 10% of the queries. There's a lot of activity that took place in that 1 hour. Um, and And the bottom chart is the direct query and live connections is because we throttle on the number, and it is per SKU. So this is kind of helping us correlate that if we do see extended wait times or duration times, there's something that we would this is probably something that we would also want to consider if we are throttling because of the number of connections. And I believe it's 30 for a P1. So that means that if there are like 15 direct query and 15 live connections, it's probably going to be throttled. So that's about the query duration. Um, and moving on to query wait. And while this loads, is there any question, Chuck, that I can take?
There's a bunch of them. So I think Brian, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually Brian from Texas, so you have to let me know, from EXP, is asking, Premium OneNote allows up to 6 concurrent refreshes, and Power BI does the queuing and memory eviction behind the scenes. So clearly someone's been watching Josh's webinars with me. Good. That's good, Brian. Thank you. Is there a way to see the trend of how many data sets are refreshing in parallel?
That is a good question, Brian. Feedback taken. We are working on surfacing that up. So today we show you what was successful and what failed, but we do not show you the concurrent refreshes. But it's definitely something that we are looking to surface up in the very near future.
And then Adam asks a somewhat related question. If a scheduled refresh is moved from an active slot due to an interactive refresh query,
Mhm.
does the scheduled refresh have to start over even though if it was 90% complete?
It does get canceled. Yes, it does move back to the queue.
Yeah, and it
Because
restarts entirely because those
yeah,
data sets were getting copied and that copy would have been eliminated. Is that
that
right?
that's correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
and it
So
picks up when the resources are available again.
Adam then goes on and says, if the interactive query stops, how long until that solution is removed from the active slot? I think
I'm
that
sorry.
depends on.
I'm
So
sorry. What was the question
if
again?
the interactive query stops, how
Yes.
long until that solution is removed from the active slot?
I actually didn't follow Chuck. But maybe you have the answer.
Actually, I'm not positive. So he goes out and says, if the interactive query is stopped,
Okay.
how long until the solution is removed from the active slot?
Oh, I see. Okay, so there is it's about 3 minutes. That's when we tag the report at the data set as inactive. So and if there is no activity for 3 minutes, then we do keep the data sets in memory, and we can I'll touch on it a little bit when we go to the next bookmark. But that
Okay.
is a great point to kind of bring up is we do not evict until we hit memory pressure. We leave the data sets in memory, but we mark it as inactive if there is no activity on it for about 3 minutes. Um, so yeah, there's that spike again. Sorry, I keep kind of getting distracted by the little spike. And as you can see, so this is, I should thank them because this is perfect. This is kind of showing us, how we could correlate that spike with the metric. You can see, the wait time in general, which what this essentially means is the time it took for the query to, when the request came in for it to begin. So 99% of the queries were run under 50 milliseconds, which is really nice. There is that yeah, and this is so far so good. But there is that. So this is a general. This is the average over time for the capacity in the 7 days period. And again, it stands out that Matlin marketing demo did hit the average wait time. So it was impacted not only by the time it took for the queries to run, but it was also one of the reports that had to wait. So what this can actually, what we could conclude is like the users were seeing a little bit of spinning happening during that 1 hour during the demo. So it's kind of so this is the power of the app right there, guys. This, you can see how we can make kind of correlate and be make some judgments right here. um, so that 1 hour, you could see that there were 5 queries that were made that one during that 1 hour that had to wait, and the max time they actually had to wait was about 3 seconds. Um, so that's about query wait times. What we would have to keeping in mind that we prioritize the query over the interactive experience over backgrounds. When we do see spikes, multiple spikes in the query wait time, that is a good indicator, a strong indicator that the capacity is running warm, along with the other indicators that we've kind of talked about in the past couple minutes. Um, and moving on to data sets, we were really excited about this page, and there was a lot of work that went into this, is showcasing what data set is in memory at the hour, and what is the footprint, what is the impact. So what we're showing right here, Chuck, is the uncompressed version, the size that it takes, the memory footprint, the size that this data set occupies in memory. And what we have on the right is by the hour. So this is kind of telling us at one given hour, what was the max number of data sets that were loaded. Um, so right here, I just kind of picked one. If you want to pick on that, so just kind of going back. So there were about 24 models and that was the max number of models that were loaded in that 1 hour. The below chart then talks about, as you can see, we do evict. So we've got the garbage collection that kind of rolls in at a regular span, but we do not evict till we hit memory pressure. So this is kind of what we're probably seeing up here, is when we did see a little bit of peak. You know, it probably triggered the eviction to and what we do is we evict the inactive models, the models that have not been active for a period of 3 minutes, to take on new requests. And there were a total of 8 evictions that happened in over the 7-day period. And then this chart right here kind of shows like the hourly breakdown of the evictions. And as you can see, the other exciting thing that we were really wanted to share in this webinar is the consumed memory consumption. This is what was new. This is what was recently added in the last version of the app, is accounting for what percent of what is in memory is actually active. So we can actually see right here is it spiked here when about 80% of memory was being consumed, and out of that, 77% was active, where the remaining was, there's just reports that are in memory and had no activity on it. So this kind of helps us, account for, when the true reason of when we should be able to scale up. So when this gap converges and when it does hit memory limits would probably be a good time to think about, um, scaling up. And we'll kind of touch on that uh, in the next few slides. So Chuck, I wanted to kind of just switch gears and get out of the demo mode and go back to the slides. But if there is any question that I can answer.
You know, we do need to finish in about 3 minutes. So why don't you
Perfect.
finish up with the slides? I've actually been triaging them. That while you're going back to the slides, there was a bunch of questions about how do I figure out what reports do I have in a workspace, what dashboards. The answer would have been, and Chris would have actually won the QP prize. The audit log is actually one of the best ways of doing that. Now with the new PowerShell commandlets that Kai actually released a little while ago, it's probably even better. And I sent links to those. So anyways, go ahead.
Perfect. So I just want to take a minute and kind of touch on some of the key scenarios that we've seen. So and this is kind of summarizing of what I've already, kind of walked through is, and these are real scenarios. We've also kind of mentioned this on the white paper. So, don't worry if you know, uh, you won't lose any of this information. So quickly kind of going through what we actually noticed, we actually got complaints that the users were experiencing some staleness in reports. So what we expected the admin to do is go to the report and sort by, the max wait time, and then also look at the hourly, the middle chart is the hourly wait time, and validate what the users are actually seeing. And here you can actually see that there is a little bit of trend. You can see where the refreshes, the wait times are kind of peaking at regular intervals during, at certain times in the day. And this is where we also see in the below chart where we're seeing evictions happening. We are seeing like memory pressures. So these are good indicators that, this is, if is where we should contact the owners of the data set and have them optimize, their Power Query logic, look at the way they've calculated the measures to actually reduce the data set size, or have it configured using incremental refresh to speed up the duration so that it doesn't impact all the other data sets. The other option is, if this is time sensitive, is to move the workspace to a different capacity. And I just want to quickly touch on how we can actually even use, which is what I touched on in the demo as well, is identifying a poorly designed report, is using the max duration, filtering on the average and max duration, and especially noticing if there are other data sets that are not really having the same problem, but this is kind of standing out. This is a good indicator that this report does need some DAX fixing, and it is time to contact the owner of the data set to investigate. And finally, the one I wanted to kind of highlight is when do you need more capacity? You need more capacity when things start slowing down. This is when the capacity, the temperature is super hot, and this you see spikes in wait times and the refresh and query wait times. And the chart that I was talking about is where you see the all in the active and memory converging, and it's kind of hitting the limits. So this is a good indicator to when you would need to scale up. So that's all I had, Chuck. And thank you all for taking the time. And I hope this was worth your time, and there were some questions that were answered, but we're looking to hear back from you. Stay connected and give us feedback on the user voice. We definitely want to improve, and your feedback is super important to us.
Great job, Swati. Next week, we've got Ted Pattison actually talking about the new master app owner that we've just introduced for Power BI Embedded. And then the week after that is MVP Summit, so no session. And the week after that, we should get Ray Romano actually to walk through how to use a bunch of the admin APIs to get the information that you guys were asking about as far as number of reports, number of dashboards per workspace, and how to correlate those. So Swati, great job. And until next week and Power BI Embedded, we'll talk to you guys then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.